Hey Sages, and welcome to your November 2017 General Tarot Forecast. This is Sky here to give you guys hopefully another amazing reading for your month ahead. And this is it, Sages. This is November. Some of you have your birthdays here, so super happy birthday to those of you who do. But this is the last full month that Saturn is going to be in your sign. So there's a lot that we have to confront. There's a lot of work that has to go on. I've tried to keep your readings kind of like shorter and simple for the last few months because it's not been so good to really focus on small little complexities that are really debatable and very abstract because Saturn is more tangible. But I can tell very clearly by what I'm seeing here that we have a lot to talk about and we have a lot to get into. So, and I knew that right when I drew your cards and did the photography for this month. For that reason, you guys are last. This is the last general reading I'm doing for November. I've gone through all of the signs, and let me tell you guys, it has been a project. I don't know how to describe it, but this month for everybody is kind of a crisis time, and I love what I do. I would not change what I do at this point in time, but it has been a lot to take on this month for sure. And as I have 4 planets in Sagittarius myself, I'm on the cusp of Scorpio and Sagittarius. I'm a Scorpio, but I am also very ruled by Sagittarius as well. So the Saturn transit has been very active in my chart. In fact, Saturn happens to be exactly on the planets in my chart, which are in Sagittarius right now as we speak. So I have a lot of experience with this, I feel, and I've had a lot of insight, I think, into how this type of energy has to be faced. There's a reason that I waited for your reading to be last, Sag, is because of how much work all the other readings took. I think all Sagittarians have been having to work harder than ever before in their lives. I think that things have been very much a process. I want to say labors of love have been really a big deal for you, and it's been really hard to, I think, keep everything together. I know that I've had to make a lot of sacrifices over the last year of my life. I've had to let go of a lot of things, and I know that you guys have had to as well. You have to prioritize during things like this. Priorities and sacrifices have been prevalent during this Saturn transit, and what purpose does that serve? I do feel like that gets answered in this reading, although I am not quite there yet. Basically, Sages, sit down, make yourself a nice cup of coffee. I have an amazing cup of coffee here, as it is taking a lot of caffeine to keep me going at this point in time, but I am ready to face it and I'm ready to see what these energies have in store. So, what do I feel mainly from the energies in your reading? Cycles, patterns, being chained to something which isn't so good for you, being chained to an old way of being that doesn't do much for your life path right now. So much inspiration is here right now, though. So much creativity, so much insight. Not as much endurance as you might like, maybe not as much wherewithal as you might like, but through that, still a knowledge that you're going to get done what you have set out to complete, no matter what. Maybe feeling a little bit depleted financially or emotionally. Maybe feeling like you've not made the right decisions. Feeling like you can't make the right decisions. Feeling like the ways in which you have to be decisive right now doesn't really help anybody, and you're kind of curious why you have to make the decisions that you have to make right now. Feeling very disconnected from past loved ones, disconnected from family, disjointed, not understanding why rifts in relationships formed the way that they did, not understanding why you have to face solitude the way that you do right now, and basically trying to understand. Trying as hard as you can to understand with that 9 of Swords right in the center of your reading, and not being able to get an answer, not being able to draw a conclusion, has been so much the essence of what Sagittarius has gone through over this last year. People don't realize how intense this Saturn transit has been because Saturn does not care to be much in Sagittarius. Everyone's going to have a Saturn transit at some point in time. It takes 30 years for it to go around the sun. So every 30 years, you're going to have Saturn on your sun, regardless of what sign you are. But there are certain signs that Saturn does better in than others. And I have come to the conclusion throughout this time that it does not very much like Sagittarius, but it opens a lot of doors nonetheless. Sagittarius is ruled by Jupiter. Jupiter is the antithesis of Saturn. They are opposite principles. They are different paths. They are different ways of being. So when you put Saturn into Jupiter's sign, it basically creates something that's almost not real, or something that defies the physics of this type of realm. And for some people, it's been really wonderful. And I have been very blessed throughout this transit. I started my YouTube channel with Saturn and Sagittarius. I started these readings with Saturn and Sagittarius. I have new intellectual creative property with Saturn and Sagittarius. I've gotten promotions and bonuses in other work that I do with Saturn and Sagittarius, and it's been an amazing blessing, but let me tell you, it has been hard to take it all on. And everything that I feel that I've done well with, and I think that you guys can relate to this so closely, has become so not difficult to maintain, but it takes a regiment, and it takes a routine, and it takes something that is really hard to understand what it actually is, because I've had to let go of a lot too. I had to let go of school with what I was doing, and I've had to let go of some other particular things which I ultimately needed to let go of, and I am now 100 times more successful because of letting go. I feel like one of the biggest problems with Sagittarius right now is not knowing what to let go of, or having forced yourself to follow through with everything so far. And as we move into November, Sagittarius, there's a strength that has to be found here, regardless of how bleak you feel or how small you feel in comparison to some of these events that you have been facing in your experience. You have to find the strength, and you have to find a level of endurance which gets you through. Also, you have to have some realizations in November. It's going to be imperative, as I feel you're such a philosophical thinker. You have such a high mind. Your mind operates at a level that most other zodiac signs do not. Like, you can see intricacies, you can see patterns, not in the way that like a Gemini or an air sign can, in the sense that it's like mathematical or formulaic, but you're Jupiter ruled, you're philosophically based. There's a cultural, worldly, philosophic view to the way that your mind works, and through that you have to come to an emotional understanding of the bigger picture of what has happened to you. Because I feel that Sagittarius is very stuck for some reason, as this is not so much in your nature. But I mean, with Saturn there, it fixates things, it pulls things together, so that makes sense. Very stuck on broken hearts of the past, very stuck on unspoken memories or unspoken difficulties that you have had to transcend, or that you've been forced to forget about or forced to close the door on when you didn't want to do that. And your mind's very stuck on the action of that. It's like, it's not even so much the content, it's not so much the breakup or the cheating or the loss of ambition towards something and what that was. It's more so the principle of it, or the way in which it was wrapped up and displayed, is something that your mind is kind of struggling to cope with, or struggling to move through and to navigate. And you have to in November. You have to, because it's like you just won't go on. It's like it's not possible for you not to. So there's no reason to try to deny it. There's no reason to, I feel like a sense of denial too in some Sagittarius, like telling yourself, yes, I truly loved that person because of the way that they left me, because I have to love them because that's all that I have left, when maybe you actually don't. Or no, I don't have a problem. I don't have this addiction. I don't have this difficult experience. It's not a problem to me, when it actually is. Be wary of denial type of mindsets in November, even on a more positive side, to the extent of like, yes, I can upload 36 videos to YouTube this month. To be very personal. But when in reality you're struggling to do 12, and you don't want to make your 12 videos on YouTube not be as much quality as you can, and all of that kind of stuff. Anyway, and in another sense, like, just be careful of saying, like, when you get into sort of like a manic where you're all like, yeah, I'm going to go and volunteer at the homeless shelter, and then I'm going to upload all these videos to my YouTube channel, then I'm going to go and do all this freelance work here, and I'm going to rekindle the relationship with that person, and I'm going to revamp my wardrobe, and then I'm going to invest in these stocks, and then I'm going to do all these things, like all these really big things, or I'm going to buy this property, or I'm going to buy this new car and finance all these new things. I'm going to get like Invisalign, or I'm going to do this crazy things with all of these like really big aspirational goals that you're like, yes, I can do all of this month. I can do all of this by the end of this year. And you kind of set yourself up for failure, because it is a time where you can very easily pull in and be rewarded, or you can pull in and think, no, I don't need to go out of the country right now just to escape from my broken heart. No, I don't need to get Invisalign or straighten up my teeth just because I have a crooked sense of self. Be careful of weird symbolic things like that. Like, I feel like there are like cosmetic things that you're upset about as well. And maybe you don't like the way that your skin looks, or maybe you don't like the way that your teeth looks, or maybe you don't like your hair. But it's not really about your skin, teeth, or hair. It's more about the things underneath. And you think that by fixing those things, you will also fix the other things. as that does tend to sometimes work, and that is a kind of a Saturn and Sagittarius ideal. It's like kind of symbolic, and it's kind of philosophical and upper-minded in that way, but you can't, though. Like, Saturn is tangible. Saturn is real. It's like through fixing... It's interesting to see how sometimes through fixing, like straightening out your sense of self, your teeth will actually naturally start to straighten up. Through like... letting go of things, your skin will start to be more bright and luminous. The soul's level of happiness is very dependent on cosmetically the way that we look as well. Although it doesn't always necessarily combine well with what society beauty standards is. That's a whole nother video. But anyway, as I do feel like self-esteem is kind of emphasized for you guys right now, like maybe you're just not too happy with the way that you're looking, or you feel like you've let yourself go, as that is quite normal with a Saturn transit, but usually you're like stronger, and you can also regiment it. It would be a wonderful time to take on a new, like healthy, easy, nothing fad, no fasting Sagittarius. I've known so many Sagittarius who have gone on like fasting diets, or have gone on like really high intensity training things that are like over the top. Nothing outrageous, nothing over the top with Saturn and Sag, because it never lasts. You have to do consistent things with Saturn. You have to do consistent things that go a long time, that give you long results. For example, I will give you guys an example of like my own personal experience, because I'm a Scorpio. I also have like 4 planets in Scorpio, so I've had Saturn throughout my entire chart pretty much, and it's been conjunct pretty much everything over the last 5 years. Pray for me. I am still breathing. But when Saturn was on my Scorpio stuff, which is like my sun, moon, and all these different things, I was struggling with like weight and stuff. But then during that time, like I really like upped my game, and I was like running all the time, and I was like always exercising, always dieting in like a healthy way. Like I actually found a happy medium there. And it completely changed my metabolism. Now I can eat whatever I want and I don't gain weight. And I have like just perfect weight and perfect body proportions without even having to think about it now. Like I don't even have to try with diet, nothing. And like the old version of myself before I had that Saturn transit on my sun and stuff, like I had to pay so close attention to like what I ate. Like just the smallest amount of too many calories or too many carbs really like made a huge difference in the scale. Now it doesn't matter. I can drink as much like sodas or coffees or eat whatever I want. And that's kind of a blessing and a curse, because then you kind of get like other health problems because you don't have really consequences with your weight. But anyway, that's the type of thing that can happen under Saturn. You can completely change your metabolism. And getting out of the physical body, you can completely change your relationship cycles. You can completely change the way that you magnetize people, and you can completely change how much money you pull in. Permanent changes to old, long-running, difficult experiences of life are the positive side of Saturn transits. It's a wonderful energy to have in your chart, actually. It brings with it a lot of chaos, usually, and a lot of what we seem to interpret as humans to be negative experiences. But without Saturn, I've always been saying, and I feel like sometimes I don't do a good enough job of explaining the positive side of Saturn, which is like, Saturn rules structures, it rules walls, it rules roofs, boundaries, bridges, anything that's like built and created to solve problems. It's like without Saturn principles, you wouldn't have like a roof over your head to block out the elements. You wouldn't be able to cross land without going through the water. All of these things, like Saturn creates new structures in our lives that we can use to avoid the water. Like it creates bridges in sort of the emotional turbulence that we experience. No longer do we have to navigate through the rushing waters of our emotional turbulences when Saturn builds a bridge for us to cross, This is the positive side of it, but it's not easy to build a bridge. It's expensive, it requires labor, it requires, just like the elements of like stone or concrete or metal or whatever the bridge is made out of have to be like mined out of the earth, and labor, that takes labor, and then it has to be built, and then you have to make sure that it's sturdy enough to be usable. That's sort of the quintessential idea of Saturn. And you guys, to me, feel like you've not really been able to quite get it, as I haven't either. And I mean, I can sit here and tell you like all about Saturn and what it means, but I still haven't quite cracked the code. And I feel like November requires us to crack the code. And so I would love any comments in the description box below about how you've cracked the code of what this sort of Saturn riddle is. Saturn and Sag does feel very much to me to be some kind of riddle. So has anyone else figured out the riddle yet? Help me out here. But I can at least, I have these tools that I have, and I think that my readings are helpful in the sense that there's a relatability, and I can talk from experience somewhat. But anything else that I want to mention before we get into the week to week? Trust your creativity and trust your inspiration right now. It's very powerful. For those of you who don't know, I'm actually writing a record and I'm going to be doing an album, and I've not told anyone else, so I'm confiding in you, Sagittarius, that I hope to be able to share it on my YouTube channel and to be able to show some of you that. But I'm a very creative person in that sense. I'm a musician, I sing, I do all those kinds of things, and like some of the most amazing things have come to me, knock on wood. I'm just going to knock on wood, okay? Thank you guys. Knock on wood, some of the most amazing things have come to me, and I hope to be able to materialize them in a really great way. And I know that you all are having that too. And I really feel like through this type of experience, like the record deal can happen. The book, you can write the book, you can go back to school, you can do all these things that you've had like high ambitions to do through the labor and intention setting and regimenting of your energy right now. Because you have great ideas. You have 2 aces in your reading, Sagittarius. You have the rest of the reading's like all over the place, but you have Ace of Wands and Ace of Swords upright. That's creative, inspirational ability mixed with logical capacity and the ability to polish it. So any of you creative Sagittarius out there, the book writers, musicians, performers, actors, even accountants, everything takes creativity to some extent. Start employing your creative, polished abilities to transcend. Okay, I just kind of had a light bulb moment. Apply some of this creative energy that you've had towards your goals and towards your career to, Sagittarius, the emotional turbulence that you've been going through. Polish that, bring some creativity into that, and polish what you've been through. I feel like is a good thing to do to sort of integrate that into all of your experience. And as most of you Sagittarius know, you've kind of had to use this difficult emotional energy to propel you forward, and that has been really good and I think has sparked a lot of creativity. But you really do have to step into a place of being able to polish what you've created and materialized. So, and because that's sometimes Sagittarius' problem, is it has all this creative energy and all this spark, the initial spark of creativity. But sometimes it can be hard to follow through. Not with Saturn in your sign, Sagittarius. This is the beauty of Saturn in your sign. Not only can you have that creative spark, but you can have the structure of Saturn to build it. Utilize this last month in November and half of December when it's still in Sag. Use this period of time very wisely, Sagittarius. You can structure and make a lot of systems for money, a lot of systems for success to last you the next 30 years, honestly. For sure the next 15 till it's in Gemini. Really, really use the next month and a half, because once it moves into Capricorn, it's going to be completely different when it comes to creating, when it comes to materializing, when it comes to creative spark. Amazingly enough, though, in 2019, you'll have Jupiter going through Sagittarius, which will be wonderful for that as well. But it won't be as easy to structure it, believe it or not. There'll be more oomph, there'll be more spark, and more good luck, and more people who see you and who want to help you. But there won't be this integral ability just within yourself to structure what you've done the way that you can. And there's the whole idea, if you want something done right, do it yourself. When Jupiter comes into Sag, there's going to be a lot of people that you're having to work with, and they're going to be good people. They're going to be gifted people. They're going to be people who get you somewhere. But nobody can get you into the place that's perfect enough for you other than yourself. So use this time to do that very wisely. Anyway, you guys, we're already 20 minutes in almost, and I'm just now get into the week to week. Let's see what's coming forward. Week number 1 of November, King of Swords, Jupiter down by Queen of Swords. If you can do one thing right in November, Sagittarius, it will be to disconnect a little bit from the emotions. Do you see any Cups cards in here? I only see one, and that's Knight of Cups reversed, which is saying that the emotions, the manipulation, the emotional subterfuge is a problem and needs to be quit, like stat. But week number 1, excuse me, I'm losing my voices. Sorry for the coughing, guys. I know that's noisy, and I'm being so saggy right now. Oh my gosh. Week number 1, King of Swords, down by Queen of Swords. I mean, be decisive, be upfront, say what you mean what you say. At the same time, understand who needs to hear your truth right now. The truth is really emphasized in the first week. The swords have all to do with truth. Difficult truths, yes, but those are both upright, so it doesn't seem like it's anything that you can't take. Surround yourself with air signs. Surround yourselves with male and female air signs, or masculine and feminine air signs, because they will help your mind to work in the right way. Be weary of, I even want to say other fire signs and water signs and earth signs. Just beware of all of those. But it seems like air signs are pretty good for you right now. But really honing in on the air element within yourself. Okay, yeah, there's just a lot of things coming to me, so sorry for the just random changes in direction. But let me finish that thought. Honing in with the air element in yourself, like not being emotionally motivated so much. The content from the emotional motivation is already there, and you don't need more of it. You've got to polish, you've got to air sign, you've got to be less creativity driven and more polish driven, more like formulaic, more mathematical in your decision making, and also in touch with reality, as it doesn't seem like actually you guys are struggling with that so much as other signs, believe it or not. But if you guys have seen any of the other readings so far, you know that I've been talking a lot about like Jupiter having just gone into Scorpio and how it doesn't really tolerate a lot of delusional people or illusions or lies or falsity. If you're convincing yourself that you are something that you're not, or if you're not putting the work in, or if you're identifying as something false, you kind of set yourself up with a difficult experience, especially if you know that you're doing it. It's sort of different if you have just no clue and you're completely oblivious to it, but that's not very good either. Try to be in touch with reality, especially in the first week. It seems like you guys are kind of predisposed to it this month anyway, but make sure you're seeing things for the way that they are, and make sure that you're not putting false hope or false energy into people. And that's a big keyword for Sagittarius with this transit too, is false hope, because you're such an optimistic sign, and you can be prone to false hope. You can be prone to putting hope into things like that may not have the most potential, always having faith in the underdog, always building people up so that they can achieve more. And that's a beautiful personality trait, but it's not for this month. You've got to find potential in the things that actually have it. In the second week, 5 of Pentacles, rooted down by Ace of Wands. Okay, Sages, creativity that doesn't cost money is good. What are the cheaper ways that you can operate? For most of you. For some of the other Sages out there who aren't so financially driven right now, this can speak about emotionally or even spiritual or religious depletion as well with 5 of Wands. Or I'm sorry, 5 of Pentacles. It's all about, most obviously to me, like feeling broke or feeling spiritually broke. It can really be either way. It's usually some kind of impoverished, cold, barren feeling though. And I know that like Sagittarius have been trying to save so much recently too. So for that reason, you can feel a little bit broke just because you're not allowing yourself to have much of what you make because you're trying to save for these amazing creative projects that you have going. So that's good. Make sure that you're not rubbing it in your own face though, and make sure you're being fair to yourself. For those of you who are actually really broke or impoverished, as I do feel a small percentage of you are, you have to battle that with some like fire in the belly, like creativity for those. So I just heard that there are actually a small minority of Sagittarius who aren't feeling very creative, feeling very despondent, or maybe even a little bit depressed, not feeling very creatively inspired. As I feel those of you might have like a Taurus or a Capricorn or a like Leo placement that's pulling that out. And of course, just having Saturn in your sign. But your remedy to your financial dilemma or your spiritual dilemma lies in finding your creativity and finding your inspiration again. Because when we're accessing that solar plexus energy, which there isn't much of, there's not much bright yellow, and the only one is reversed in your readings. So quite a few Sagittarius could actually be lacking a little bit of this creative solar plexus stimulating energy. You have to be able to find that, then that will all solve itself. Because through activation of the solar plexus, you pull in the right life experiences to give you the money that you need to give you the spiritual and religious satiation that you need, okay? Another interpretation that I feel in the second week of that energy is like you have some expensive habits, or you're relying on spending money to feel comfortable. Because actually, and what has been my experience of working with a lot of Sages is that most Sages are like making more money now than they ever have, or have a more successful business than they've ever had. And through that, you just have like more money than you've ever had, and you've sort of become addicted to spending, or addicted to the way that you put out your energy. And this can also be like transactions can be money, but it can also be like emotions. I would recommend that you guys like print up a bank statement, get out a highlighter, and highlight everything that you don't think that you needed to do, or that you don't think is really necessary, and cancel it, like, and stop it. And you'll see how much more you have to save for like your amazing projects. Really be assertive with your energy, because I think that a lot of you are caught up in like an existential crisis with it all. Like, I've been spending so much money. The batteries are dead in the remote and I just can't do anything about it. Like they say that the batteries are low and that message is always popping up, but I just don't feel like changing them. Or all of the wires and cords in my room are completely out everywhere, but I just can't find extension cords, or I can't find a stapler to put them against the wall. Like, and you're making like really existential crises out of small things when you could like just get out a bank statement, start canceling stuff, get out a stapler, fix the cords, change the batteries, like be proactive with some of these problems that are coming through. Now that was really specific and not at all about my own situation, so I don't really know why that came through or who that applies to, but hopefully my voice will make it through this reading, you guys. Okay, third week, you guys have Knight of Cups reversed, rooted down by the Devil. So, seeing people's true colors is very much emphasized with the second half of November, honestly. If people are around you, Sages, and you think that they're being shady, as I just feel something shady about those energies altogether, like really shady, and you just don't feel like it's quite right, like you don't feel like people are being quite honest with you, stop. Just recede. Just go back. Don't feed the fire. Because it feels like you should really be thinking about that too. You should really be catching on to that. Like maybe you're not realizing who is like not on your side, or it might not even really have to do with people like being like against you per se, but people doing things which just aren't that nice, like asking you for loans because they know that you won't deny them, or asking you to pay for their coffee or something just because they know that you're doing better than you ever have, and it's not like they can't afford it, but they just know, oh well, this Sag is doing good and they want to help me out. And things which are much deeper than that. Obviously that's rooted down by the Devil, which is like such heavy energy, and so descriptive of I feel what Sag is going through right now. It's time to break the shackles, Sag. It's time to break out of delusional people, delusional mind spaces, old patterns, old cycles, old habits, old addictions, because it feels like you're not even operating there anymore. It feels like you're doing some old things that you've like just been doing for a long time, like just because it's been a way of your being, but you don't even need it anymore. And if you would just stop, like you wouldn't really even miss it. Be careful of people who enjoy seeing others in pain. That's what I usually see when I see like the Devil and some of these other cards that I'm seeing in the reading with like Nine of Swords there. It feels like you can attract like antagonistic people in your life right now, or you can attract people who are like very cynical or very upset with life in general. Therefore they like to, pick at people. They like to like be out in public and be talking about how terrible everybody else looks, or be talking about just saying really bad things about people and really enjoying that, or enjoy, like if they saw someone trip or have an embarrassing experience, they would really enjoy that or really laugh about that. And Sagittarius is kind of funny at like a surface level with this type of thing, but it feels like you have some potentially like kind of like psycho-y type of people around you. So just like watch out for that. Watch out for really antagonistic people. And that should clarify itself and be validated in the third week to some extent. In the fourth week, you guys have Strength reversed, rooted down by Ace of Swords. Depletion. I mean, it's been a theme, obviously, and I feel like that speaks for itself. Like, just not feeling like you have the strength to take something on, or second guessing. I feel like that's a lot of energy of second guessing yourself, and this is where that Ace of Swords energy becomes very positive, and you have to be able to utilize this sort of new polished ability that you have, and this is more like mental sharpness. I feel like you guys are going to be so much more mentally sharp moving out of November, because I think that Sag has just struggled with like a malaise or like a fogginess. I feel like you guys have been like not such good multitaskers as you usually are, or have been like walking into rooms and forgetting why you're there a lot, forgetting about appointments or forgetting about obligations can definitely be a reality for Sag. And like I feel like that stops at the end of November, or you have to implement something in November, some kind of system or some kind of regiment which at least helps you, or at least proves that you're giving some kind of effort. And I feel in the fourth week of November, you sort of like lift yourself up by the bootstraps, and you're like, okay, I'm going to get through this, and I'm going to not be so foggy. I'm going to go to bed at a decent hour. I'm going to get up at a decent hour. I'm going to do this project that I've been putting off for so long. I'm going to stop telling myself that I can't do this project. I am going to do it. I am not going to get stuck in the self-sabotage tendency, because that's what the Devil is all about too. It's all about that self-sabotage cycle, and not knowing why. I mean, Nine of Swords is your central theme, Sag. It's one of those months. I'm not going to sugarcoat that for you, but these types of cards, and this is what I love about the tarot, this is why I'm a tarot reader, this is why I do what I do, despite some of the most difficult cards like the Nine of Swords, like the Devil, there is always a power behind that, that through facing these energies, you get to claim and you get to have what I like to say, like the equal and opposite reaction. So you have a really difficult experience, maybe in 2017, that you're either coping with in November or that happens in November. You get to have an equally amazing, on the complete opposite spectrum of that experience when you choose to face it, when you choose to face the reality of it. And that's the thing. Sometimes when we get like what we feel like abused or victimized by somebody else, it's really hard to see like how we initiated that or how we were pulling that in that way. We're not really seeing the reality, or we're not seeing the root of the situation, because whenever we go through difficulties in life, it's because our energy has gotten scattered in some kind of way that we had to be jolted, or the universe had to set us on back onto the path. Okay, and if you can see why that was, or you can see the reality of that, then you can start to pick up the pieces and you can really pull in the wonderful experience to counteract that. And that's what it's going to be about in November, Sag, is finding out what that is. Don't be afraid to journal. Don't be afraid to write things down. I would, as I recommended for Libra, I would recommend that you guys like write down, okay, let's look at the last year or the last 2 years and bullet points, what wonderful has happened to me. Bullet points, what terrible has happened to me, and find the connecting dots and find like what spiritually, or book a reading with me and let me help you out there, because I can usually detect those things very easily without really even you having to like spell things out for me. I usually know exact timelines, I know exact traumas, so links in the description box, but you can do it yourself too. Connect the dots. Understand the spiritual messages, understand why you set yourself up to fail, understand the self-sabotage, understand why you set yourself up to encounter people who set you up to fail. Really understand the why of things in November, and you can really catapult into December and out of Saturn and Sag in a way that leaves us all kind of mystified and leaves us all kind of like, wow, look at Sagittarius shining so bright like a star type of thing, which will be really wonderful to see, you guys. And it's sort of like my goal as well. So anyway, yeah, I really hope this reading has resonated for you guys. If there are any other messages that I feel that I need to communicate, this video has been so long, 30 minutes, wow. If you guys would like to see ad-free readings, as I'm sure there have been like so many ads playing in this video, hi YouTube, you guys can check out my Patreon page below. There are free, early, ad-free readings there. Also, if you guys want to book a private reading with me, that should be popping up in the center of your screen, as well as you can check out my Fallen Humanity video, which sheds some more light on the archetypes we're going through. Be sure to check out your Sun, Moon, Rising sign on the right playlist, and your subscribes, likes, and comments mean the world to me. I'm rooting for you guys. This is the last full month of Saturn and Sag. Get to the bottom of things, come through it. You guys are stronger than you realize. We will be talking soon in December. Much love and happy birthday to those of you who have it. Bye.